Hi, my name is Meredith Moss, and for my comparative exercise physiology special project, I chose to focus on dolphins. There are over 40 different species of dolphins, but for this project, all of the research that I looked into was specifically about the bottlenose dolphin. So, the bottlenose dolphin breaks up into two subspecies. So, it's the coastal bottlenose dolphin, which is greater in population than the offshore bottlenose. These dolphins tend to remain closer to the shoreline, where the water is not as deep and tends to be warmer. These dolphins weigh between 300 and 650 pounds and can be up to 10 feet long, whereas the offshore bottlenose dolphin is much larger. They can weigh up to 1,100 pounds and be almost 14 feet long. The easiest way to tell these dolphins apart is that the coastal bottlenose dolphin is a lot lighter in color, and the coastal bottlenose dolphins stay about 5 miles within the shoreline, whereas the offshore bottlenose dolphins are past that and they dive a lot deeper. So the offshore bottlenose dolphin is a lot darker in color. They come off as like a deep navy blue or dark gray. And I attached this really sad picture of a dolphin caught in a fishing net because it's the only one I could find that was that bright color representation. So something that people often forget about dolphins is that they're mammals. They look like fish, act like fish, eat like fish, but they need oxygen to breathe just like humans or any other land mammal. So the breathing techniques that I researched for this presentation apply to the entire whale dolphin family, not just the bottlenose dolphins. Dolphins have collapsible lungs, which allow them to have a higher tidal volume than humans. So even though their lungs aren't as big compared to body size as the humans are around 7% of their body size, and dolphins are around 3%. They have a much higher tidal volume, and their lungs are also more elastic because they're made up of cartilage. And this elastic consistency allows for the lungs to spring back or reinflate quicker after they collapse fully. And this quick reinflation of the lungs creates a low pressure, which then draws in fresh oxygen air really quickly. And when underneath the water, their blowholes are tightly closed. When they come up, the air is expelled under a lot of pressure from those collapsing lungs. And the air expelling under a great force causes the misty water shoot out of their blowholes that you can see in these photos to the right. This water shooting out that we see is not actually seawater, but a mix of air from the lungs and residue from the respiratory system. So this warm air from the lungs mixed with the mucus hits the cool air above the water and condenses really quickly to form water that we see in the photos above. So it's the same idea as like you seeing your breath when you walk outside on a cold morning. And their blowhole is equivalent to a human nostril. Kind of through the process of adaptation and evolution, their blowholes have moved from the tip of their nose to the top of their head, which makes it easier for them to breathe quickly when they come up for short breaths as they're swimming. Dolphins have a really unique blood composition, and they're great at storing oxygen in their bodies. They have almost double the amount of hemoglobin in their bodies than humans, which makes their blood a very deep burgundy or black color, so that is even darker in the whale species. Dolphins also have 30% more myoglobin in their muscles for increased oxygen storage. Muscle color is also blackish because of this richness in myoglobin, and it gets darker as the size of the dolphin or as when you get into the whale species. So, in result of their red blood cells' ability to hold more oxygen and their tolerance for carbon dioxide being higher than humans, they have a much wider pH range than humans do. During each breath, they exchange 80% of the air in their lungs, while humans only exchange 17%. Dolphins move quickly through the water by arching their backs and moving their tail up and down. Each side of a dolphin's tail is known as a fluke. They have flippers to steer themselves. So a lot of times you'll hear a dolphin's tail referred to as a fluke or the flukes. So although their spine is in the center of control for their movement, it is not very strong, nor any of their other bones due to the buoyancy the water provides. This flexibility helps prevent injury. There are large fibrous discs throughout their spine between vertebrae that assist with powerful movements where strong bones would be needed in another animal. So I included an image of the skeleton of a dolphin so you guys can see what I mean. Like the tail and the backbone is all they've got. So if that were to get hurt, they would be in big trouble. It's really great that they are so flexible and that they live in water and have that buoyancy to help them kind of move around without having to worry about getting hurt. And I included this bottom image, which is an x-ray of a pectoral flipper of a dolphin. It's not the bottlenose species. It was another one, but I included it so you could see kind of the space in between the vertebrae and just how much blubber is in between the bone and the surface of the skin, because we'll talk about that in just a minute. So it was a really great image to find. Muscle development is really crucial in aquatic animals because they're faced with the challenge at birth. They are born in the water and their muscles must be active and working perfectly at the instant that they're born. Their diaphragm muscles must be in sync with their locomotor muscles so that their breathing only takes place when above the surface. And the diaphragm is not fully developed at birth in dolphins. The neonates show approximately 34% slow twitch fibers, and adult dolphins have about 66% slow twitch fibers, and a lot of people think that this helps with the increased respiration rate of young dolphins. Dolphins aren't known to be migratory animals. They don't have any migration patterns like a lot of other species, but when they do travel, they can travel up to 80 miles a day, which is really impressive, and their average pace is 3 to 7 miles an hour, but a lot of dolphins have been documented going approximately 20 miles per hour in several studies. The offshore bottlenose dolphins were most of the ones getting up to that speed, so that was really impressive. So the research articles that I did find about dolphins diving were really vague because it's hard to recreate a diving environment for dolphins for a research study, and you can watch them in the wild, but that data is really hard to get. But what we do know is that dolphins regularly dive 10 to 150 feet when in search for food. So this depends on the specific species of dolphin, how far they dive regularly. But all dolphins slow their heart rate when diving, which is really unique. Blood flows away from the tissues and towards the heart and brain because they're a priority for high supply oxygen at this time. The heart rate adjustment helps dolphins avoid decompression sickness, which is known as the bends in humans. One study that I read did have an occurrence of dolphins' alveoli collapsing at really deep depths, and that forced air into the bronchioles, which is dangerous because gas can't be exchanged there. So that is a defect that some dolphins are experiencing, and the researchers could not figure out why that had happened, which was interesting. I want to keep up on that. So my favorite thing to learn about was how dolphins sleep, because I had no idea that they were capable of this. So dolphins are able to hold their breath for 8 to 10 minutes when they're resting. They either sleep at the surface of the water or latch onto another when sleeping. Keeping this close to the surface allows them to move minimally and pop their flukes out of the water as they need to get oxygen. When sleeping, they only sleep with one eye shut at a time, and this is because only one brain hemisphere sleeps at a time. Dolphins are never fully unconscious. This is because they're prey animals. So this unique way of sleeping is made possible by their light bone structure and their great ability to float, and dolphins spend about a third of their day taking naps. They take short naps instead of full nights of sleep. And they're really good at surfing ships, so they'll get close to the boat and kind of get caught up in their waves, so they use less energy when they're trying to rest. Dolphins are great at temperature regulation. A dolphin's core body temperature is close to a human's at 96 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. How they temperature regulate exactly depends on their location and how deep they dive for food. Dolphins who have adapted to life in cooler, deeper water tend to have slightly larger bodies and more blubber, as well as smaller flippers than their close relatives who live close to the shore. The smaller flippers help by decreasing the skin exposed to cold water, and blubber acts as insulation. Dolphins have a well-adapted circulatory system that is crucial for conservation or dissipation of heat. They have arteries within their flippers, flukes, and dorsal fin that are encased by veins. Therefore, the heat from the body that is within blood passing through these arteries dissipates to the veins whenever they need to use it for heat conservation. When dolphins need to cool off, circulation increases to blood vessels along the skin's surface, and excess heat is shed into the environment. So I wanted to include this image just to show the difference between blubber and fat, because a lot of people think of them as the same thing. So blubber does contain fat cells, but it's more connective tissue, and it is great at insulation for aquatic animals. So you can see how thick that layer of blubber is under the derm compared to how thin the fat layer is. It just is solely for insulation, so it's not just fat like humans get when they eat too much. It is stored in the body for that specific reason of thermoregulation. So a few other things that I came across when I was doing my research on dolphins is that dolphins have two stomachs, one where food digestion takes place and another where food is stored. There are species of dolphins that live in fresh water as well as saltwater, and a dolphin's dorsal fin is similar to a human's fingerprint or a dog's nose print, and can help identify certain dolphins in groups, which comes into play a lot with research because they'll try to keep up with these dolphins based on the differences in dorsal fins and do a lot of observations based on this fact alone. Also, dolphins have no secondary sex characteristics, so it's really hard to tell who's female and who's male until you watch them give birth, or a lot of times they'll assume a baby dolphin hanging out with a grown dolphin is mom and child. So that makes research really difficult because they can't really do a lot of comparative research between female and male unless they see these telltale signs, which don't always come up in a group of dolphins.